Hey everybody, Coach Troy here, and look at what I got. Every year I run our wrestling tournament, and it is a ton of work. I'll volunteer, but this year they decided to give me a gift for doing so. And here I go, the Game Station Pro. Yeah, the new coach, Gary, he went to Costco of all places, and $79.99 he said, as opposed to the $99.99 you're seeing everywhere else, so not a bad deal. And he said there's still a lot of them there, so I guess I'm plugging it. Not that I'm getting anything out of it, but hey, if you want to find one for 20 bucks cheaper, 20 bucks is 20 bucks, right? So I did get my 2600 plus, about a month ago, and I've been playing the mess out of that thing. Love it dearly. But I've only got the games that I got, whereas this thing, 200 plus, all right? So 7800, 5200, and some extra bonus games. So let's crack this sucker open and see what it's got inside, right? Performing a minor surgery. Let's cut this tape. Now, where were we? What? Oh, what is this thing? Look at that. My arcade. It comes with batteries. Whoa. Man, they're not skimping out. Let's open this first little box here. What do we got inside? A certificate of authenticity. Alright. I almost feel like I should get that framed, man. Collect them all, My Arcade Gaming. It's like electronic Pokemon, I guess. Alright, this thing is pretty tiny. That's about, it's like 4 inches by 6 inches. Buttons feel good quality right there. Power and home. It's got some decent weight to it. It doesn't feel cheap and chintzy. It feels, it's plastic, but it feels like good plastic, Got our USB cord, HDMI, and these controllers. These things look neat. They are a little light though. The buttons feel good, but I don't know about this thing. This doesn't exactly feel amazing. It's very clicky, very light. I don't know if there's any difference between the two. Looks like they are both the same. So a little different from like the games flashback ones, where there's a main one for the first player that has all the buttons on it. Now this has got everything as well. And it's got full batteries though. That is kind of awesome. It's just, they didn't need to, and I appreciate it. So looking at it already, I really like the way the system feels and looks. That's pretty cool, right? It's got that 7800 look to it, or the Atari Junior anyway. That metal on there. Taking a little closer look at the base itself here, looks like we got our micro SD slot is on the side here. 2 cords for USB-C, HDMI, and a power cord right there. But enough of my yapping here, alright, let's get to actually playing and seeing what the system has to offer. So kind of neat here. To get the Game Station Pro hooked up, I'm just going to unplug my 2600 plus and use the exact same cords to plug in. Completely unnecessary, but I think that looks pretty cool. Now look at that. So we got a neat little startup screen there. This rockin' soundtrack. Look at that volume up so you can hear that. I don't want to put up too loud because some of the games are ridiculously loud compared to others. But yeah, listen to that. You can just jam out, man. If you don't want to hear it, just hit that C button and it goes away. And speaking of adjustments, look at our settings, If you want, you could stretch it to do a full screen, which would be terrible looking. I wonder how it would look on some games. I don't know. The synthwave is cool. The CRT TV, I don't know. I think it looks kind of terrible. If you can do scan lines if you want. You can't adjust the buttons, but you can look at what they are. And look at that. Here you can do a factory reset if you screw up your settings too much. But hey, let's get to the games. We got featured games. So up top, yep, we got our different systems that we can go off of. Let's start out with that Atari 2600. And we got some neat titles in here. So let's start out looking. We got Adventure, of course, and we got Aquaventure. Let's check this one out real quick. You go on here, you can click on it, and it's kind of like the at games where it'll give you a little synopsis. It doesn't give you instructions though. You still have to look at. You could also scroll, looking at this screen here. Alright, so this game never officially released, but had it been, I think that this game would just be top rated. You want to slide down, collect some treasure, and give it to that lovely rainbow mermaid. Because mermaids demand tribute in order for them to save you. Alright, now I can just click on the button here, and I'll go back to the menu. Of course, I'm going to check out one of my absolute favorites here in Centipede. And yeah, this one looks good. So yeah, it looks exactly like Centipede. Although it plays a little bit, the control is a little, I don't know, it seems a little off. Like it's a little extra jumpy. Like this is me trying to just slide over. You can kind of see with that bottom mushroom there. It just doesn't quite slide. I mean, if you're moving around, it's good. But if I need to do small, little, precise movements, it's not as good as the Atari controller. Now, Roadrunner is a game that I always wanted to check out. I've never actually seen a physical copy. So this is a new one that I haven't seen on any of the other systems, which is kind of cool. It's got good music. And it plays, yeah, controls good, smooth. Ooh, run away. There you go, you can get him run over. Cat. Why? Oh, look, I can pause. Very nice to be able to pause with this thing. I thought I'd be bumping this button a lot more often, but I'm not. While I'm at it, you look at here. While you're in the game controls, look at that. TV type, I can do my black and white, which is neat. Name difficulties, I can hit the difficulty switches right there and there. And there's a paddle sensitivity, but I don't need that here. And also I can do my save states. So, Opal, if you would be so kind as to get out of everybody's way. Alright, with Opal out of the way, what you could do here is you can save and you can pick. Like you can do, you got save slots, and if you have your SD card in, you can save in here as well to get extra save stations, which is kind of cool. So just save it right there. Oop, try not to get eaten. Oh no, I died. I can go back, load my spot from there, bam, right back where I was. Works pretty nice and easy. And we got Save Mary. You know, this is another newer game. I think Atari's selling another copy, or they're selling copies on the website, so this is a neat one here. I got the instructions for some of the stuff on here. There we go. And look at that, we do have boxing if you got that 2600 plus and you're afraid of not being able to play this game. The Game Station Pro has you covered. And if we look at the 5200 game section here, look at that, we got Centipede again, Frisky Tom, which wow, look at that picture on there. That's a little suggestive. So we've got Meebzork, which was never actually a finished game. But we do have Millipede, which is awesome. Missile Command, Real Sports Baseball, and ooh, look at that, Real Sports Basketball. That actually looks really cool. I'm gonna try this one out. Oh wow, yeah, this is pretty accurate. Now look at that. Wow, yeah, that's actually just about how I do play basketball. Checking out this version of Centipede. The same. I don't know if this is. I guess I've never played the 5200 version. But again, the control is like, you go too far, you know, you got no finesse really when you're trying to play here. It looks amazing. I really like the way this game looks. I just really wish it controlled better. And again, I don't know if that is this controller or if that is just the 5200. And of course, Millipede is awesome if you want about 9 million things on the screen. Stuff gets crazy in this game. This is definitely Centipede on steroids. So looking at our 7800 games, we got Alien Brigade, which is a pretty slick shooter. Asteroids. This is basketball for those who usually foul out. Another version of Centipede, because why would you not have 3 different versions of Centipede? Dark Chambers. This is the better version of Desert Falcon. Food Fight, awesome game. Motorcycle is a decent motorcycle game. Baseball, not really too into it. And Scrapyard Dog that's a pretty neat platformer. Now, I'm really excited that this game is on here, because the last time I played this game, it was at the first Atari flashback, the At Games one, which just plays terrible. Dark Chambers is a pretty cool, I would almost say like Gauntlet, but not quite as good. And unfortunately, you only get the one class. I don't want to compare it too much, because it is a different game, but man. Alien Brigade is just a cool looking one that I'm sure everyone wants to see. What could be a light gun game, but instead we got the cursor here. It's not the smoothest, it's a little choppy in its movement and control. And of course we gotta check out Centipede. And this one does not have the same controller issues that the 2600 one had, or the 5200. This one plays real smooth. It plays just like the actual hardware. Oh, the spider is just as annoying. God, I hate that thing. And if we go over to the arcade section, this one is neat, because it will have a lot of the different versions of these old arcade games. Like, look at this black and white baseball, Atari, or Asteroids and Asteroids Deluxe. So like these vector-looking games. Now to play an arcade game, the select button will throw coins in for you, and the start button gets it going. This one is a paddle game, and the paddle here works super smooth. Now you can tell this is definitely inspiration for Kaboom here. And of course we've got Centipede for every single other system possible. Why not have the arcade version as well? And Crystal Castles. Now this one I'm excited about. No, there's no trackball roller here. You gotta use this controller. But this is a game I would always see at the airport. Whenever my grandma would come to visit, we used to have to pick her up at the airport. But I would always see this game, and I always wanted to play it. But of course, my parents would never give me quarters to. So this is my first chance to finally play the real Crystal Castles, not the 2600 version. And Tempest should be a pretty popular one. I know I used to play the mess out of this. And while it's on a joystick here, it still controls alright. I mean, it's no Tempest 2000, but you know, what is? While there's some pretty cool arcade games that you might spend some time with, a lot of this is neat from the idea of getting like a historic view of it, and to see how like video games kind of progressed and grew, but you're not going to get much more out of a lot of them than that. The one thing I was really excited for was having this little paddle controller, because if there's one thing that Atari did right, it was the paddle controller. And we've got 15 different games between the 2600 and the arcade that you can use to play with the paddle. Check out Night Driver. I love this game. I feel it's a little underrated. This one, the paddle doesn't really work too well. The paddle's like too small to get the steering in that you'd want. Again, this is a game that normally I'd be decent at, but I struggle playing with this tiny little paddle on the side here. I can still do alright, but I really struggle because of the tininess of the paddle. Other games, I think the paddle works just fine. Oops, I'm just really bad at it. And if you do feel like you're struggling with your paddle, you can click that. Go down to paddle sensitivity and make little adjustments. Am I flying around too much? Let's check this out. Oops. There we go. Now I feel like I got a little more control, though it is way too slow. This is a vicious game for the Atari. So those are all your Atari games, your featured Atari games. A good amount of games, good selection. But there's also this section here called bonus games. So you click on that bad boy, and look at this. You've got 8-bit, 16-bit, and arcade games in here. Now these are all Piko-owned games, but you can definitely recognize some of these. Like 8 Eyes here was a pretty cool NES game. Bad Street Brawler here is pretty ridiculous. The only problem is the controls. That B button on the top
is a little hard to use. This is one I really wish had a manual so I can understand what the heck is going on here. Why do I look like some kind of weird pro wrestling knockoff? Oh, why is the guy from Ghoul School there? There are some neat ones like this boat duel. I think this would be a lot more fun, but it's a little bit hampered by the controls here. These controls are not super great. Poor me, I got beat by that nerd. Time to retire. Some of these extra games on here are just pretty crappy, though. I guess catch the bird and get the key to escape, but man. Also pretty cool, they've got, for some reason, both the 8-bit Immortal as well as the 16-bit. And you can tell it's the Sega one by all that lovely blood and gore. Got Brave Battle Saga, which I hear is a decent RPG, so I might have to check that out. And Canon, Legends of the New Gods, if you like Shining Force, that should be, that's a similar style game here. But we've got some other crap here like Jim Power, as well as one of my very least favorite games of all time, Sword of Sodom, or Sedan, something like that. Oh, this game just controls terribly. This game is brutally bad. Oh, man. Like, this, just having this thing on the system, that's going to have to dock points. This is so bad. And how are you going to have zany golf, but no ninja golf? Top Racer 2 is a pretty good racing game. So I'm like talking smack. What do we got? Road Rage? Is that what this game is? Eat dirt. I like that. Oh, sad. Didn't get my goal. Water Margin. Seriously. Some of these games just seem very strange. Some games, at least on here, you can adjust your controls so you can set them up a little better. But they're, you know, that's not every game, and that still doesn't make the button placements fantastic for this. But you can make it a little bit better. I think I gotta be the old guy, right? You know, even with a joystick, you get the buttons right. You can play this alright. I say as I'm getting stabbed. And in the arcade section, there are 12 games, and I'll be honest, none of these really look very good. Let's try Steel Force. That name has promise, you know, that just sounds tough. Same thing, the select button's gonna throw you in some quarters. And now it's time for Steel Force. Backstory is irrelevant. Just know you're here to shoot things. I guess if I got unlimited quarters, I could just do this, right? If I die, throw another one in. So there we go. All that gaming in this little box that's about the size of my hand. Not too shabby. Yeah, it's got a decent library of 2,600 games. Some solid ones that are thrown in there. Aqua Venture I was really happy about. Save Mary's a new one that's pretty cool. Plus you got your classics. I'm always going to be a Centipede fan. You got Adventure, Haunted House. Good, solid games. I'm a little disappointed in some of the stuff they are missing out on, but I guess that is, of course, with licensing, you're not going to get everything. You're going to be missing out on your Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man. Yeah, there's no Pitfall or Endure, but those are Activision games, not Atari games, so I guess you got more issues there. That's all right. The 5200 selection, while the games that were on there looked great, it was just sad to see only 7, most of them which were on the 2600 and 7800 as well. And one of them was still a prototype even? That's kind of sad. The 7800 selection was much better. You got some cool ones in there. Food Fight, classic. So glad that one was on there. And you have the arcade games that are in there. And the arcade games are cool because it's kind of like a history. So you're going through playing those arcade games, you're getting a neat little history of what Atari was offering back, you know, your black and white games, your vector graphic games, things like that. It's pretty cool, but it's not anything that, at least me, I'm not going to go back into that arcade. I don't know if ever. I might go back just to check a couple things out, but I really don't see myself playing any of those games again. But we also had that nice section of bonus games, which is really cool. Your 8-bit, 16-bit, and other arcade games. That, of course, is a mixed bag because this controller here. While I'm going to get into this a little bit more in a second here, but some of your 16-bit games with these buttons wasn't exactly fantastic. Same with the arcade. And did we really need two different versions of Humans and the Immortal? But again, those were all bonus, so I guess I can't be too picky about what I'm getting extra, right? There are a few of those that I definitely am going to get into and I'm going to play a bunch more of. So I'm actually happy about the bonus games. While most of them I probably won't play, there are a few in there that I'm looking forward to. And then we got this thing here. All right, now it looks really cool. I like the way it lights up. You know, that is pretty neat looking. But the design, it moves. It's clicky. It's definitely not an Atari joystick. It's definitely way different from an Atari joystick. You know, the Atari is much stiffer. This is really easy. It moves pretty nice, but it feels like I don't have the same control in all the games. In some of the games, it doesn't matter and plays just fine. But some games where I need a little bit more finesse, I feel this gets a little almost jumpy. I thought I was going to hit this menu button, you know, because of the spacing right there, but that was never a problem. In fact, it was kind of it was nice. I could use it as a pause button several times. So that actually works pretty well right there. The problem one is this home button here right next to the select and the start. You know how many times I accidentally clicked home when I went to hit select or start on something else, and then I just completely leave the game that I'm in? That was a major pain and a bit of a problem, I think. Yeah, this having your home button right here was not a good idea. Maybe having it up front would have been a better call. And the stick and the top and the buttons, I feel nice. They're great. But the sharp edge on this bottom here, I'm getting like a callus on my hand there because I'm holding it. End up pushing into there, and it's not very comfortable. So after a while, you don't get the same hand cramps from the tough Atari joystick because it moves so easy. But I do end up getting, I got like a weird callus on my middle finger. And then the button placement is not great. Again, for 2600, this is no problem. This is just fine because you're only using that one. But for the 7800 games and the bonus games, using these buttons here are a major pain. So this is your traditional grip. You know how you work a joystick? End up doing different weird things. So it works nicely. Some games it works better than others, but once you try to get all three buttons in there, it's not great. All right, it could be better. What they did do right though is this paddle here. This little dial works so well as a paddle, and I don't feel like I'm doing anything different when holding the joystick and working this paddle. The only one that maybe I would have had a little issue with was Night Driver, but you can adjust the sensitivity of this to kind of help a little bit there. Still, it was kind of enough for driving, not great. But for any of the other paddle games, Pong and Breakout, stuff like that, this paddle works amazing, which I'm happy because that's one thing that Atari I felt did better than anything else is the paddles, and it seems like no one's been able to get them right since. This is the closest to I have seen. So yeah, this paddle, they did a great job with that. So if I'm looking at this, just what's inside this box right here for $80, you get a pretty good deal. You get a ton of games. You get a full variety of games. Say not all of them are going to be playing, but that's never the case when you get anything with over 100 games on it. There's always going to be some that you're playing a lot more than others. If you have been collecting, you probably got a lot of this stuff in other variations and forms. Although nothing else has done the 5200 and 7800 as far as I know, like this has. But yeah, if you are new to retro gaming and getting into it for the first time, this has got so much to offer. Just a ton of stuff. I can see several hours worth of playing in here, no problem. And unlike some things, it comes with 2 controllers, so you can play with somebody else. So that being said, what comes in the box? It is a good, solid deal. But that's just saying what it can currently do. When you look at it really and know what this thing is actually capable of doing, that's going to shoot the value of this way higher in my opinion. So looking on the side of this machine here, we have a micro SD card slot. And while that is officially 4 extra save states, we all really know that's where you can plug in your ROMs. So all those games I was talking about, like the Miss Pac-Mans and maybe even Midnight Madness for 7800, just the other games that you want to play, if you can find those ROMs, you can play those games. So this is capable of way more than 200 plus. And not just the Atari games. Again, you can use the NES, the Game Boy, the Sega Genesis. There's just so much more you can put on here. So this is super, super expandable. You can get a ton out of here. So that's pretty cool. Of course, having all the games in the world doesn't mean anything if you're not happy with how they play, right? But while I haven't done it myself, I have seen you can plug in one of these Xbox controllers or a PS5 controller if you got it, and it works just fine. All you would need is a little adapter for the USB here. Plug it into the front of this machine. What a crazy concept, having the plugs in front. Come on, 2600 plus. And now you're able to play with the best controller. So that was the genius of my arcade putting this thing out. Yeah, it's cool for what it's got. It's definitely worth it. It's got a ton of value. But when you look at how you can expand on it, there is a ton more. So yeah, I think that this is definitely a solid, solid pickup. Is it going to replace my 2600 plus? Definitely not. As long as I got carts, I'm keeping that thing and I'm playing it a lot. But this just might replace my Flashback Gold, and I absolutely love that machine. Plus, there is just a firmware update. I haven't done it yet, so at some point I got to get to that and see what exactly it does do for this machine. So those are my thoughts on it. Hope you liked the video. Let me know what you think. Is this a good deal? Anyone else got it? Find any issues with it? Finding anything great about it? Am I missing something? Am I screwing something up? Anyways, this is Coach Troy, and I'll see y'all next time.
Thanks for joining me as I start my journey into the world of retro gaming. If you're interested in my other hobbies of fitness or board games, check out my other channel. Anyways, this is Coach Troy. I'll see y'all next time.